Hello and welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of TJacks Unpacks. And this, guys, is actually the first one to go out on other platforms other than YouTube. So wherever you are listening, whether it's still YouTube, maybe Spotify, maybe Apple Music, thank you guys for listening. And if this is your first time listening, guys, this is a progressive-based podcast providing just practical solutions and perspectives to problems in the American political space. So I have a guest today joining me to break down 5 of the hottest, I guess, topics you could say right now in the political sphere. So I am going to welcome right now Audrey to the stage. Audrey, how are you doing today?
Hey, Tim. I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm doing pretty well, all things considering. I'm on fall break right now as a teacher, so I mean, I can't complain. So up for today, guys, we got 5 different topics. So the first thing we're going to talk about is COP30. We're going to have Audrey here as a sustainability expert to kind of introduce that to us and break that down a little bit. Then we're going to talk about, guys, there is historical discrepancies right now between the Democrat and Republican Party in terms of their popularity in polling. So we're going to take a look at that. We're also going to take a look at large at just the AI bubble, guys. We know it's coming, so we're going to give our takes of what that may look like. We're then going to talk about the meeting in the White House between Zoran Mamdani and Donald Trump. That's going to be a fun one to talk about. And then we're going to finish up, guys, with a little skincare for toddlers story. So you're going to want to stick around for that. But first and foremost, we're going to start with COP30. So Audrey, as our sustainability queen here, that's going to be your official title for the show. Yeah. Can you tell the audience a little bit about first, what is COP30 in case they don't know? And then what happened? What were the outcomes of the meeting? Whatever, I don't know, symposium, whatever word we want to use for it.
Yeah. Sure. Yeah. So I just want to say I'm not a sustainability queen.
I mean, you are here. You are here.
But I do work in sustainability and I have a passion for it. So I like following these COP conferences. They happen every year. It's an annual thing and it's hosted by the United Nations. So it's expected that literally every country in the world shows up and they talk about climate change. And this is the 30th one. So that's why it's COP30. And it's important to note that the United States, for the first time, did not send an official delegation to COP30, which meant that one of the world's largest emitters was missing during all of these climate change conversations. If you've ever heard of the Paris Climate Accords, that's something that came out of a COP. And so that's kind of the level of importance these conferences have on the world stage. It's nations coming together, forming international agreements, non-binding, technically, agreements. But the intent is to put everyone in the same room thinking about how we can mitigate climate change.
Right. And something like this is obviously necessary because climate is emitted across the globe, right? You can't just do emissions country by country, city by city. It's a global problem, so it needs global-based solutions. And you mentioned the United States not being there. Can you delve a little bit? Obviously, we're the most powerful country in the world. We have the most resources. We also emit a ton of fossil emissions.
Yeah.
So can you delve a little bit more into the impact of the United States not attending COP30?
Yeah. I'm just going to look up how the emissions rank globally for the United States because I know that China is number 1. And I have a feeling we're number 2 or number 3.
We're definitely in the top 5.
Let me see. Global rank.
I have right here the US is the world's second largest emitter of. It contributes about 11 to 13% of the global CO2.
Yeah. So the United States not being there is a pretty big blow to, well, I will say, it was intended to be a big blow. Trump specifically has called climate change a hoax, but also called this conference like a scam. And he does not want to be on the international stage or represent the United States on an international stage at a conference dedicated to working solutions for climate change and climate resilience.
Why do you
And
think? Why do you think that is?
well, I think a lot of it has to do with our corporate lobbyists. And where the money is right now. And the interesting thing about this COP was that because the United States was not there, it was like there was this the clouds, the terrible energy was not present in the room. And so they were able to have a lot of interesting conversations about climate resilience and climate mitigation. And one of the leaders at the conference was China. As the largest emitter in the world, China has a really big onus to reduce their emissions. But beyond that, which is kind of a separate thing, like does China really want to reduce their emissions? It's kind of a different thing. But China has invested heavily in renewable energy and renewables. And so China's finding that they have a lot of countries coming up to them at COP asking them what they're doing with renewable energy, where their PV market is, how their electric cars are. They're asking all of these questions of China because China is following the money. And at this point, the US is not. Even though the reason the US is not involved is because of money, is because of
It's
lobbyists and corporate investment.
but it's because of like old money, right? It's like
Yes.
money from people in their 60s, 70s, and 80s who this is the part with this, like, obviously climate change is happening. Obviously it's human made. That's been like 99%.
Yeah.
Like I'm not, but even if you didn't think that and you just wanted to enrich yourself, you would go into renewables. And that is the part for me that has always been dumbfounding, is like in a capitalistic system where you are trying to extract like and get as much money. Guys, why wouldn't you want to be number one in the world in renew? Like I've never understood that, other than just it's like
Yeah.
old people in these positions not caring about the future, and like, or they won't be around to reap the benefits once it's
Yeah.
in place enough. What do you think about that?
I really think that the way our system is set up, and this is like the government system and our corporations that are involved, uh, China's playing the long game because they can. China's playing the long game because they have a leader who's the leader for 30 plus years, and he is able to strategize beyond 4 years. And we don't. We don't do that here in the States. So that means that whatever corporation has the largest amount of lobbying funding and is able to get their voices heard, that's what makes it into our political strategy for the following 4 years. And I think there has been a lot of, like, I read an article the other day about what is the reason why do people say that climate change isn't real? Like, what is the reason for all of this um, hesitation to invest in renewables and get away from fossil fuels and things like that? And the article had said something like the reason is really it's behavior and like resistance to change, but that's definitely not it. The reason is corporations that make billions and trillions of dollars are not able to completely change their infrastructure at this point to be renewable companies instead of fossil fuel based companies, because at this point, China's already outpaced them on renewables. So it's even more like digging your heels in, like we missed the boat entirely, and now we just have to go back to we're putting all of our eggs in this basket because this is our basket. We don't have
So
another basket.
yeah, no, I think I know when I had you on before. And by the way, guys, yes, Audrey's been on before if you want to listen to our previous conversation. But yeah, just China outpacing and looking ahead. That is the part. Like, what does it look like in the United States then in like 10 years? What does it look like? What do you think
It
this looks
looks
like?
like it looks like California is its own country. Number one, because they have more renewables than any other
Okay.
state, you know,
What
and
other
they and actually the only person from the US that was at COP
was
or
it?
like person of note was Gavin Newsom.
I
So
was gonna say, was it Newsom? So Newsom
yeah,
obviously setting up for a presidential run too. So
yes,
like that
yes,
is a smart. He has been. I have my own thoughts on Newsom, but he has been tactically very smart. In the past,
absolutely.
I would say year or so, and kind of lining himself up. But I think
Yeah,
also in the previous podcast, you made a good point about the every 4 years component, and it's weird because something like this, which is so proven by science and facts and
yeah,
evidence and peer reviewed studies. This should not be something that changes every 4 years
right.
because it's not something that's a lot like it's just inability to change and like
Yeah,
greed from largely old men who just
yeah.
have, like you said, they missed the boat in their refusal to kind of change.
Yeah, and I mean, like, they're not gonna live to see the worst parts of climate change. And they also don't live in areas that are experiencing the worst of it. And actually, like the point of this COP being so this COP was in Brazil and it was in a really small town on the edge of the rainforest, the Amazon rainforest. And the purpose of it being there was to like put the conference in an area that is really under siege right now from climate change and also from overexploitation.
Who made
Um,
that decision? Because that's really smart. Like, who do you like? How is it decided where it's put? Year to year.
Yeah, I mean, I believe it was President Lula who is the president in Brazil right now, who selected the location, but I'm not sure how the individual locations, like the countries, I'm not sure how the country hosts are decided. I do know they just released it for next year. I think it's going to be in Turkey. Um, but yeah, it was President Lula, which was a really interesting choice for him too, because he has been part of like the overexploitation of the rainforest there, which was further evidenced, I would say, by the protesters that showed up at COP30, which is also something that the conference does always encourage. They do encourage protesters and local groups, social and civil groups, to come and protest to like bring more media and also just more awareness because even at COP, there are fossil fuel lobbyists. And even at COP, there are corporations spending lots and lots of money to make sure that the words fossil fuels, for example, does not show up in the final agreement that all of the nations come together to sign, which is exactly what happened this year.
It's the like I feel like you've done such a beautiful job to just laying out the corruption. It's the lot like it's
Yeah,
just people guys, this is our planet. I know we're crazy liberals or what, but like guys, literally once it starts happening to an extreme degree, we can't fix it. Like that's the part that like we need to be a little bit more forward thinking than and what's challenging, Audrey, and I think we mentioned this before, is we're also dealing with like people can't afford food, people can't
yeah,
afford where they're living. So it's like they can't afford childcare. So this idea that down and we've mentioned like it's hitting right now also, but
yes,
like for most people, them not eating tonight is immediate and they like feel
right,
that. So this
yeah,
idea that like, oh, my house may be wiped out from a flood in 10 or 15 years is just not on people's minds, but it absolutely has to be because once that water is running, you can't like it's going and you can't
yeah,
stop
yeah.
it. So yeah. All right, go ahead. I don't know if you wanted to add
Well,
anything.
yeah, no, I mean, you're absolutely right. And like the worst part I think is that there is ramifications of climate change happening now to people who still can't put food on the table. Like there absolutely are communities that are severely impacted and there also happen to be some of the poorest areas and most under-resourced areas. So
And that's
it's
That's why it was
It's
such a good
only going to
idea
get worse.
have
Yeah.
COP30 there, though, because it gives that, like, if you put it in this lavish, upscale, no, we
Yeah.
are talking about climate change. So we're going to have it in a place where this is the reality of what happens if it goes untreated. So I just
Yeah.
think that's a really smart, because what you could do in Brazil, there's beautiful place, like you could
Yeah.
go in some beautiful beach, luxurious area. But no, that tells me that they want to be serious about this. At least some
Right.
people want to. And when you're going
Yes.
against all these millionaires and billionaires and this corporate money and this propaganda to get the general public to think otherwise and to just corrupt
Yeah.
the people who can actually make changes, that is, I think, at least a piece of good news. And like, no,
Yeah.
there are people taking it very seriously. Like you said, they encourage protesters. There were protesters at this one. There's climate really
Yeah.
activists. I think overall, we're going to throw away, our country's nonsense. It seems like a lot of what's going on with the rest of the world is they are trying to take it at least somewhat seriously. Would you
Yeah.
agree with that?
I would agree with that. There were a number of countries that came out after COP30 ended criticizing the agreement, because the agreement, though it is still, I mean, compared to what the US's position is, that agreement is definitely progressive, but it's not progressive enough. And there are a lot of countries that really feel like we need to be doing more, and they're willing to speak up about it and lead the conversation about it. So there are definitely places and countries that are prioritizing climate change in a way that we don't see at all in the United States.
Got it. So I guess, I mean, time will tell, right? I think that's the only thing to say with this. We know we're gonna be continually hit with like natural
Yeah,
disasters, and if we are not actively addressing this, then like I, I don't know. Like it's coming. I would hope we invest in it, but like you said, every 4 years we just flip flop. So until us, the second
yeah,
biggest emitters and the biggest economy, the strongest economy in the world, starts taking this a little bit seriously, even if other countries are, it's still going to be an uphill battle for the world.
yeah,
All right, so we're going to now jump into story number 2. And guys, this is some interesting polling here. So this is from Marist, and it is showing a huge, huge discrepancy. It's actually the largest lead in decades for Democrats. So Democrats are at 55%. Versus 41% in nationwide midterm polling. So, Audrey, I want to throw this to you. Those are huge discrepancies, in politics. So 55, 41, that may not be that big in day-to-day life, but that is a chasm, like I said, in politics.
yeah.
So what do you think's going on? Why do you think Democrats have this 14-point lead here over Republicans at midterm polling?
Yeah, I mean, there's so much that is impacting and influencing this, but I think some of the more prominent things would be the Republican Party is not as united as it was during the election at this point in the presidency. And you see infighting happening within the party. That's definitely causing friction with voters too. I think about things like the government shutdown and how that like was ultimately, despite all of their efforts, ultimately most negatively impacting the Republican Party.
Mm-hmm.
And
And their
and
voters, a lot of like
yes,
a lot in general too. I don't want to, sorry, I didn't want to cut you off, but a lot of these policies that Republicans voted for, it's hurting them at
yes,
disproportionate rates than it is Democrat-led states and cities. Sorry,
absolutely.
go ahead.
Well, no, that's the other part of this is that I mean, I remember when we got the results of the election, it was like there were so many young men who had voted for Trump. There were historic records of Black and Latino voters for the Republican Party. Like those people today are being disproportionately impacted by things like rising grocery prices and um, lack of access to a lot of these government programs that have been shut down or stopped or paused, or, I think there's a lot of people who may have voted for him who are now feeling like their everything they were hoping for has turned around on them. It's like it's like karma. It's like come back twofold. I think it's
and
karma.
and with
Like
this
they deserve it.
yeah, and with this polling, like a lot of it is directly linked to the president. Good, like regardless, like when people, guys,
Yeah.
when people do nationwide polling, they don't think about their individual like local
Yeah.
representative. No, they think about how at large the country is moving, and this is Trump's fault. And like a
Yeah.
lot of this too. And I will die on this mountain. I think a lot of it was just people having no idea what they were voting for. Now, that doesn't excuse it, like at all. Like ignorance doesn't, but like, I don't think they understood when they said, for instance, the biggest deportation rate or the biggest mass deportation campaign in history. Guys, that means everyday people. Yeah, that's what that means, because the math wasn't mathing. It wasn't just the violent criminals, because like I've said a million times, how many violent like immigrant criminals do you think are running around? Not millions. Like that's just not true. So like when you made that vote, you should have known it was going to look like random people getting kidnapped off the street for selling tacos. Yes, that's what it was always going to look like, right? They were going to cut education funding and healthcare, guys. That is Republican 101. That's what they like. I just wish like it because we're also only a year in. And some people will say, yeah, we're only a year
Oh
in. And then
God.
people will be like, I didn't vote for this. I'm like, I think this was pretty predictive, and I am not like I've not been doing this my
Yeah.
whole life. I'm not a political scientist. Like you guys, like there just needs to be a little critical thinking. And of
Yeah.
course, like I think the biggest thing is with the crypto schemes, him destroying the White House, literally. Um, people are like,
The
he's
East
just trying
Wing,
to
West Wing,
yes, or yeah, the East
gone.
Wing, I think it was,
The East
whatever.
Wing
Yeah,
is gone.
yeah, literally he is only about himself. And I think people are, I mean, I knew this in 20 freaking, when he was on The Apprentice. Like, no, but I think more people, because his approval rating's also in the 30s, which is garbage. I think people are starting to realize as he hawks another product and another product and another product, and then my grocery bills are going up, my healthcare is tripling. Maybe this guy actually doesn't give a damn about me after all. And it's like, yeah, no, he never did. And then you also, Audrey, at the midterms, you saw Democrats basically swept every election.
Yeah.
Like regardless of where it was, regardless of how big or small the
Yeah.
election was, they basically swept across the board. So when the
Yeah.
midterms come up in 2026, it is not looking good for the Republicans. But a year is a long time in politics.
I know it's a really interesting position they've taken because the Republicans position themselves during the election as the party of the working class. And I
Yeah,
think at this point, that's not the case.
right.
And they're absolutely the party of big business, anti-government corporations. Like
What
it's just that. And the
yeah,
rich is getting richer. And that's
right.
it.
Right. I think too, Audrey, and I'd like to hear your thoughts about that. About this, I think because the Democrats have been so horribly ineffective, which like I am able to be nuanced and say both suck, but like what I think a lot of people wrongly did, in my opinion, is they were so upset with the Democrats. They're like, screw them. I'm now going to vote Republican, not realizing like unfortunately we're voting between two evils and you just switch to like nuclear mode out of frustration, right? But like seriously, I think like
Yeah.
the Democrats, I look at it as they don't do anything, but they don't like make things actively worse consistently, like whereas the
Right.
Republicans actively make things worse. Like I am frustrated with both parties, but like I'm gonna vote with the one who isn't making my health care 3 times more expensive, and like verse the party who's just gonna do kente cloth kneeling and not actually
Right.
like do anything. Like I don't know. What do you? I think a lot of people just got frustrated, so they switched, but they didn't fully comprehend what that meant. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I have a really hard time coming at this from a neutral position because, like, in my opinion, there was no there was no choice. There was
Look,
no
I'm trying.
decision.
I try. Like that's
I'm
what
like,
I'm doing on the show. I try to delve deep and figure out
like,
like what's going on. But
I
sorry.
can't. I can't empathize. I can't sympathize. I have no understanding of what goes on in the brains of those who voted for Donald Trump. I have no idea. And but I do think like there were definitely people who were misinformed or uninformed who voted. And to what you were speaking to earlier about like there was an ignorance. And I think that
Well,
is
his whole
definitely
platform was Project 2025, guys. That's what he's doing.
yeah.
It was printed there for you. If you don't
Yeah.
like it, why didn't you read that? That's exact. He's already implemented, I think, over 50% of it. Yeah, guys, they're just,
Yeah.
yes, that was the plan. It was obvious. I I don't know. We failed an open book test. I think I saw that online. It's like, yeah, America just failed an open book test. It was all in front of us. We just chose not to read it, chose to ignore it, and now we're here. Um,
Yeah.
so we're now going to move in to our third, another wonderful story, guys. Our fourth and fifth stories will be a little bit more lighthearted, but we got to talk about the AI bubble, and I'm really excited to discuss this with you. And just so you guys know, we didn't really prep too much for our opinions on this, but we wanted to hear each other talk a little bit about what is the future of the country and really the world going to look like, because the AI bubble is imminent. There's no way to kind of ignore that. So, Audrey, I actually want to toss it to you first. What do you think? Maybe let's just start with like what our day-to-day lives may look like, and then like a time span as well, right? What do you think the I don't know, kind of bubble? What is that going to look like in the next, I don't know, 5 years, 10 years, whatever time span you think?
Well, I'm coming at this from a little bit of an insider perspective because I build data centers for work. So the company I work for, which is DPR Construction, you can look them up. We do quite a lot. Go ahead. Um, we're a commercial contractor and we do quite a lot of data centers at this point. Like it did not used to be this way, but now the demand is outpacing the supply, right? And we are building data centers faster than you can blink. And by the time that we are done with the data center, um, all of the tech we've installed is outdated. So we have to continue to work on those campuses and install new servers, new racks, things that are all getting more and more advanced by the second. So it because of all of that, it's really hard for me to say like what are things going to look like in 5 years
Because they're changing so rapidly. It's hard to be
so
predictive.
rapidly. However, and I did want to talk about like the bubble because um, it reminds me a lot of the work that I'm doing with data centers and building. Um, reminds me a lot of what happened with the dot-com bubble. And there was a lot of infrastructure put in place for the internet around the time of the dot-com bubble. And it got to the point where the infrastructure was just like vastly outpacing the internet. And that's what led to the bubble. But now, 2025, we use all of that infrastructure that was put in place then and more. We put more infrastructure in so that we can widely use the internet. And I think that's the same thing that's happening right now with the data centers. Um, there are going to be, I think, shortly, uh, financial bubbles that burst, and we're going to have quite a lot of data center AI infrastructure that is underutilized for a period of time. Now, because of how fast everything is moving, I couldn't say how long that will last. That period will last. I do think it would be fairly a short period of time, but it is like right now all of the AI companies are. It's a race to put the most in place. so you can be on top. And the difference between now and the dot-com bubble is that the people who are in the AI race are multi-billion, trillion-dollar corporations already that have other revenue streams for the most part, like OpenAI, whatever. But like Google, Meta, Microsoft, like all of these big AI, even X, whatever, I don't know, even all these big data AI companies are investing a lot, but they're also going to be okay.
Yeah.
So
A lot of like while you were going through that, one of the things I was looking for is like a part-time job because raising kids ain't easy, and ain't cheap. But in like everything out there is AI this, AI that.
yeah,
Like
yeah,
I would say 70% of what I see is about AI stuff, and it makes me think they're literally using humans to phase out humans. So they're trying to use
yeah,
like human thinking. So specifically, what I've seen a lot of is like AI math instruction. So what they're trying to do is get like the human way of answering it and feed that into the system enough so that then they can feed out or phase out the
yeah,
human need to actually teach it all.
right,
And like a lot of this, my biggest concern is this is in the hands of the wrong people because this could be a
yeah,
great like this could be a great thing. Like I think Bernie Sanders proposed like why are we going to keep working as much if we like pay people the same and just have them work less if we have these machines? But we know how this is going to work. There's just going to be mass layoffs and people aren't going to be paid. And then
yeah,
there's just going to be machines and robots doing the jobs of humans. And then the rich are just going to continue to get richer. And
yeah.
maybe they'll throw out like some universal UBI program, like a universal basic income, just so we don't like die on the streets. But like, I just,
I mean, it's already happening. It's absolutely already happening. I really do think like the job market is going to it's going to shake up the job market in a way that white collar workers were not prepared for.
yeah,
And blue collar jobs are going to be the safest jobs you
right.
could be in. And
And
it
it's,
just
go ahead, sorry.
well, yeah, I think it exacerbates an issue that's been an issue for quite a while, actually, which is that white collar work is paying less than it ever has, first and
But you
foremost.
need to get the education. You need to go into debt. So you need to
Yeah,
go in 100. And also, like a lot of those jobs are just, for some reason, we just don't value them, right? It's not like they actually don't have value, like nursing, teaching, right?
yeah,
They're stripping professional, light physical therapists. They're just like we're just choosing as a country not to invest in these things.
yeah.
And it's just, I don't understand a human being in the world who can be like, you know what we need less of? Good qualified nurses and teachers. That's the route our country. Like I don't. But
It
that
is it is
go.
really like apocalyptic for sure. It feels dystopian to
Yeah.
like be talking about it and as something that is going to happen because I do think that uh, that is absolutely going to happen in the next 5 years.
Yeah. What I
um
think, I want to hear your thoughts of this because I think like the initial like big picture rollout. So what I feel like is gonna happen is like it's gonna kind of take over like a lot. Like there's gonna be a moment where a lot's happening at once. And you can argue it's kind of happening now, but I think there's gonna be a moment like the public is like, whoa. And then I think it's actually going to fail initially. Like I think there's going to be a huge pushback, kind of like a beta testing type situation. And then it's going to come back, unfortunately, stronger, and they're going to have worked out the kinks. And then I think the second wave, if I'm making sense, that second wave is really going to be
yeah.
more painful, I guess, for us
Yeah.
long term. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I would agree. I think the second wave would be more permanent is the word
Yeah.
I would use. But I
Yes.
also think like the tech is just it's not at the place right now to fully replace
Yeah.
people,
Yeah.
but it will get there. And so there definitely are companies. I think Amazon just laid off a bunch of people. Like
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Walmart has committed to no longer they're going to have a flat workforce, meaning they're not hiring more people from this year on. Like they might let go of people and hire people, but they're never going to have more workforce than they do now. And that's because they're investing in AI and relying on AI. And Walmart's like the number one private employer or the largest private employer in the United States. So
Yeah, I think it's the biggest
companies are
employer in
betting on
most.
this.
Yeah, I think Walmart's the biggest employer in most states. Like if you take all 50 states, I think it is the biggest. I think Maryland, where I live, is one of the ones where it's not because it's Hopkins because of how big Hopkins is. But I think I looked at a map once and it's like Walmart in almost every single state.
Yes.
No, it's definitely scary because theoretically, like I said, I know this is pie in the sky. If this was in the hands of the right people, it would make our lives easier. We would just have to work less. Like we would we would just, we wouldn't have to work factory type jobs, even though those are already mostly phased out. But we wouldn't have, but we're not going to use it that way. It's just going to be used by the richest people to squeeze workers out of work so they don't have to pay workers. And that's where we're going to be. And that is.
Yeah, it makes me wonder, like, if we're gonna have a resurgence in like non-corporate jobs. And I mean this in like the best way possible, where like people who get fired because they're an accountant at a S&P 500 firm and, their job has been replaced by AI. Maybe they chase their dream of being like a baker, that they never would have done. But like these like things that could be local businesses, small businesses based in literally because the work is unavailable now that you were trained for and went to school for. And now not only is it unavailable, but if you could get a job in it, it's not going to pay you. Like that's the kind of, so maybe what else are we all going to turn to? Like it's not like white collar jobs are going to be like going into construction all of a sudden and swinging a hammer and like knowing how to do all of that. Like no, we still need to grow those markets as well because we always have a labor shortage in construction. But the people who are accountants are not, and maybe middle aged, are not going to be like able to do that. And I don't know. Like I think there could be some kind of hope that comes out of it.
I like us both trying to look at some positives, but like because for every person, like I know your point, but every person who loses a job, who finds their passion, there are 20 people who lose their job, then lose their home, then like and they don't.
I know, but it's just like, what are we gonna do with all these people who, like, what are we gonna do?
I think there'll just be more homeless people. I think they will do eventually. I think they're going to have to do universal basic income. I think legit, if there's literally not enough jobs, the option is you need to give people money or like everyone, because once you hit a tipping point with enough homeless people, crime goes through the roof. And what rich people don't want to deal with is they don't want to look at us plebes on the street. Like they don't want to deal with that. They want things to look pretty. So they will those are the two options. You need to give people pennies so like it doesn't turn into a revolt, or like it's going to turn into a full-scale revolt if like 20% of the population doesn't have a job now. That you can't have that. Like that would be.
Well, that's what I mean. Like it's just going to be such a massive, like they won't be able to ignore it. Like they can ignore the people on the streets in San Francisco, even though they can't because they have issues. But like they can ignore them to an extent, but not when they're like in their backyard or their next door neighbor and it makes me think about
and the sad thing is they don't care then when it's their neighbor of like it being a human. They care because now like ew.
It's
like
inconveniencing them.
Right. Yeah. And it's like so like it's disgusting, but that is like the way a lot of them think, unfortunately. Yeah.
It makes me think about all of the museum robberies in France right now.
Was it what was the password was the name of the museum? I can't remember which robbery, but like it was just the name. Like they just broke in the middle of the day and they just took it and they just went out. And then the guy later is like, yeah, I did this. But it wasn't like a complicated scheme, was it?
Well, no, it's not. And actually, France has been having issues all year with museum robberies because people have realized how vulnerable museums are, how little they've invested in their security systems, and how much gold they have available to melt. So, but this is the kind of stuff, that when you're talking about like inconveniencing rich people, because all these white collar people are smart. They have college degrees. They could figure out how to get into your house.
No, all of like some crime is hard to explain and account for, but most crime comes from desperation, poor education, or poverty. That's what it's coming from. If people are well taken care of, they don't have to worry about like where their bills are, like then crime goes way down. But like that's been researched time and time, and we just choose to ignore that fact. But I once again, another story where time will tell, but I do not think this is going to be good. I think I need to start. I got to work with your significant other, and he's got to teach me some blue collar skills because in a few years I may be on the street if I don't learn some soon.
But we're going to learn how to do our own oil change, and that's the truth. And nobody got $60 for that.
Well, $60, it's going to be like $180 in a few years. But yeah. All right, guys, we're going to take a quick break. And when we come back, we have two little more lighthearted stories. We're going to talk about Zoran and Trump and Trump just swooning over Zoran. And then we're going to talk about a story with skincare for toddlers. So we'll be right back. All right, welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, for our final two stories. And the first one is going to be about Zoran and Trump in the meeting in the White House on the 21st. So, guys, this was not an initial schedule meeting. I remember seeing it on social media and then being like, oh, snap, got to get my popcorn ready. Let's see how this ends up going. So, guys, I'm going to play a few clips for you now from the meeting.
Are you affirming that you think President Trump is a fascist?
I've spoken about...
That's okay. You can just say yes.
Okay. All right.
Okay. It's easier. It's easier than explaining it. I don't mind. He's working very hard. For him to be... That's a very long drive. I'll stick up for you.
We focused on affordability. We focused on the cost of living crisis. What I will say is that I am very much interested in property tax reform because what we see right now in New York City is a system that is so inequitable that it can't even stand up in court.
Being the mayor of New York City is a big deal. Absolutely. I always said, one of the things I would love to be someday is the mayor of New York City. Being the mayor of New York, and especially now, because I think you're at really a turning point, one way or the other. It could go great, or it can go in a different direction. And I think you really have a chance to make it great. And I appreciate what's happening.
Mr. President, you say you love New York.
So overall here, ladies and gentlemen, after this man had all but called Zoran freaking who's the bad guy from the Avengers? What's his Thanos? All but Thanos, and he was going to destroy New York City. And his election was the last Infinity Stone, and then everything was going to fall apart. He looked at this man. Donald Trump looked at Zoran the way I looked at my wife when I saw her for the first time on our wedding day, just looking up. Puppy eyes. And then Audrey, I don't know if you saw afterwards, he's also mimicking his outfit and his attire afterwards. Did you see this?
No.
You didn't? Okay, I will put the picture on the screen, but he's basically in this red undershirt thing that he had never whipped out before, but people are hearkening it back to an outfit that Zoran had wore previously, and it looks almost exactly the same. So I know you've kind of been keeping up a little bit with the aftermath. So what is your take on what happened with the meeting, but more importantly, kind of the fallout afterwards?
I think it's kind of hilarious. Leading up to this, I think we were all looking for a telenovela.
Yeah. I thought it was gonna be when Zelensky visited the first time. That's what I thought. Yeah,
that's exactly what I was thinking too. And it's interesting. I think it's all so unexpected, but at the same time, I kind of see it the same way that Trump and Putin are friends.
What? Wait, did you just compare Zoran to Putin? What do you gotta
in the way that and Trump has said this about Mamdani too, is that he thinks he's a good talker. He thinks he's charming. And I think that Mamdani and Putin have both figured out how to charm Donald Trump.
According to the Epstein files, he may have thought Bill Clinton was charming too. Sorry, but go ahead.
But I think that's what it is, because ultimately we all kind of have an understanding of how dumb Trump is. And
All?
how
I don't think
little
all. I don't think
how
all.
a lot of us do, how little goes on inside that pea-sized brain. And and there are some much smarter people who, like, have been in the political game and are strategic about it in a way that they're not trying to completely cut off Trump. I think a lot of the Democrats have taken a position, and they're really unwilling to work with Trump, in a way that, like, they see him on the same level as them, just in as far as, like, humanity and respect. And Mamdani is doing that. He is coming to Trump as a person and going toe to toe, but in a way that isn't going to make Trump immediately write him off as some crazy Democrat lunatic, which, it was all like fun and games during during the election, and they were like yelling at each other, right? But now that they've met face to face and things are solid with the election, it's all done. They can work towards whatever they want to work towards. And Mamdani is approaching it like, I can only work towards something with Mr. Trump if I can strategically manipulate him.
Yeah, and he's not difficult to manipulate either, because like you
That's what
said,
I meant.
there's not much going on there. That's why he gets played by Netanyahu. That's why he gets played by Putin. That's why he gets played by every world leader, basically, who is on an even level and can't, like, isn't a developing third world, like, because he's easy to get played. I think too, one of the things I love from the meeting is Zoran did not back down from calling Trump a fascist. He also went later on his show and he's like, yeah, I believe everything I still believe. Because one of the things that would have been very disheartening, because this happens time and time again in politics, is someone runs a very strong campaign, but then when they're elected, they shrivel up and they're weak and they're spineless Fetterman and they look pathetic. So I was kind of worried what this would look like. But I don't think Zoran could have come out of this looking much better, to be honest with you. Trump said he would live in New York City. He said he has great ideas. He said that the people of New York City will be, I think, very happy with but I think too, guys, ultimately Trump looks really bad because it was all optics. So it's all a show, because he went on this huge diatribe talking about how this guy should not get elected, going as far as endorsing fellow, I guess, sexual assault compadre Cuomo, I guess, that brother, whatever, but went as far to endorse a different Democrat to try to get Mamdani not elected, and he still lost. So it's also, I think it's part of him honestly bending the knee and realizing, no, this is the mayor. This is what it's going to be. I think he did the same thing with the Epstein files, where he had to bend the knee because he realized people were going to vote for it. So afterwards, he's like, oh, no, I'm for this, release it. So I think Trump as a whole is just, people aren't as scared of him anymore. They're just coming up and be like, no. And he's coming out looking very, very weak. And honestly, like a lame duck candidate pretty early in his presidency. And as the midterms come, if the Democrats sweep is likely anticipated, his presidency can be all but done in 2026. So I don't know. I kind of loved it. What are your final thoughts on the meeting?
Well, and I also do think, like, as the mayor of New York, where Donald Trump has a lot of
property, real estate, business.
Yes. Yep. Like, as the mayor of New York, Trump would want to be on the good side with him, because Mamdani, unlike Gavin Newsom, has some little bit of leverage over Trump. There is a little bit of power struggle there. And maybe in that way, Trump is also shooting the shit.
Right.
Sorry, I can bleep out another one.
I think too.
They're both playing the game, but it's really interesting because this has not been the case with previous NYC mayors.
Agreed. And it's going to be, I think too, I'm going to be watching New York City obviously very closely, as I think the entire country will. But to see what he as mayor is able to do, because he obviously has limits, right? But what pressure can you put on? No, he is like the most popular politician, I think, like in the country right now. Like he's up there with like, so okay, although you have this limited power, how do you play the game to like push your agenda, even though you can't actually control it, but knowing these people up for reelection around me. So if they don't do these things, right, like you won't be reelected. So I am just going to look at that strategy. And I think he's bright enough as long as, we don't know these people. So as long as he's actually committed to what he said, and he clearly, I think, has the intellect to at least get some things done. I'm pretty excited to see what will happen. And then kind of throwing this separate. In New Mexico, they passed like some free child or universal child care. They also linked the minimum wage to like rent in New Mexico. So in Seattle, they also elected a very progressive Democratic Socialist mayor there. So I think one positive from Trump is when things get so bad, it swings dramatically the other direction. So I think what we're going to see a lot of is more and more progressive candidates because they're speaking to actual human beings, which is like, no, like healthcare should be free. Yeah, that like a lot more people think that than having Republicans go on stage and being like, your healthcare isn't free. Okay, keep doing that. Keep saying that. That's not going to work. So I think, I don't know, I'm in a weirdly optimistic time in politics, despite everything that's going on. Am I ignorant to that?
I can't empathize with that either.
I'm trying here. But that could lead us then. Our last story here, Audrey, if you want to talk a little bit about this article you ran across with skincare for toddlers.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, to end this on a note that could like possibly get us the most internet backlash of everything we've talked about today.
Skincare for yeah. No,
the
but
moms are crazy.
So that is one thing I have realized since being a parent, and like my social media algorithm has now switched, and I'll scroll through and I'll look at the comments of like any video with a kid in it, and I'm like, Jesus, I thought doing political commentary would be rough. No. The parenthood commentary is way rough. But sorry, go ahead.
No, yeah. So skincare for toddlers. I had heard about this because there has been a large internet backlash. Shay Mitchell, who's like an actress and a model and an entrepreneur, owns this skincare line. And she released a series of skincare products designed for children ages 3 and up. And I think immediately this just caught the eye of the moms, but also like doctors and dermatologists and, skincare professionals. And so there's been a lot online about how ridiculous this idea is. And Shay Mitchell has come back and responded to all of the criticism by saying, essentially, kids like to copy adults. And if toddler A sees mommy putting on her skincare and toddler A wants to participate, then mommy should not first give the toddler her skincare because her skincare is designed for adult skin and has like retinol and things that kid skin should not have. But then second, what she could do is to encourage the child to participate in this like mimicking adult behavior by providing a skincare product designed for children's skin.
And is the products that the kids are using, they're safe for kids, right?
Yes, yeah. Okay. So I mean, that's the whole purpose. That's what it says, but I don't know how much I trust brands these days. But
do we know what's actually in it?
let's see.
Yeah, what is in this thing?
It does say, like, on the packaging, like, you could see the packaging
Yeah, and I'll pull up a
on
picture on the packaging too for so you guys can
yeah,
see it.
on social. It says, there's vitamin E in it. It says dermatologist tested, safe for
Okay.
sensitive skin. It's fragrance free, and there's some of the packages are fun little masks that are like they look like animals, so your kid can be like in a panda face mask, um, or something else. There's some that have aloe vera. Honestly, the pictures are kind of like when you look at this, even on Shay Mitchell's Instagram, it is a little bit dystopian because there's like it looks like AI made the photo. It's like a little girl, she's maybe like 4 or 5, and her she's got a robe on, she's in front of a beauty mirror with all the lights, she has her panda face mask on, and her hair is like up in a towel. She's looking at herself, like, lovingly in the mirror. It's, like, stuff that should not be online.
That's what I was gonna ask. So I wanted you to get the full like background so the audience could get their own take.
Yeah.
What is your take on this before I give mine?
This, so, like, oh gosh, maybe last year or 18 months ago or whatever, Gen Alpha started getting into Sephora, and, because of TikTok mostly, and all of the other social media sites. But because of TikTok, you had Gen Alpha kids, 7, 8, 9 years old, using products like Drunk Elephant products, which are hundreds of dollars a piece. And, yeah, or, maybe I'm being a little bit, but it's still insanely expensive for a child to be using. And it blew up online because kids should not be feeling the pressure to do 12-step skincare routines.
No, I
But
just
then
went to the website and I'm looking at I don't even know what this stuff is, obviously. Amino Rain Glass Water Serum, $58.
yeah,
What is glass
yeah.
water serum? What
Well,
is that?
and you can imagine, like, when kids are using this, or even anyone's using those products in a 10 or 12-step skincare routine, that means they're using 12 different products. So, the cost, first and foremost, is astronomical for a child,
For
even for an adult.
95% of people, yeah.
Even for an adult, it's,
Yeah.
like, a lot, and, I mean, but for a child, to use it is, I think, just wildly inappropriate and evidence of how capitalist we have become,
Yeah.
and how capitalism is really driving, like, consumerism,
Yep.
is driving purchases, and even how children grow up are now being dictated by consumerist behavior and culture.
No, I
And
think sorry. Go ahead.
no, go ahead.
I was going to say your consumerism, I read right before we got on here, is that despite how tight things are financially, we are looking at record high spending for the
Yeah,
holiday season because of
yeah,
just our consumerist mindset. And
yeah,
like, I guess my take on this kind of coming, I guess, from the male's perspective. And I know we talk a little bit about this off air, but like, at least for me, and I don't speak for every male, like, also just care routines and this the whole beauty industry, it does not do much for me. From like now, obviously, it doesn't matter. Like women are not putting on makeup for me or men, and that shouldn't be relevant. But I think a lot of it is people just women trying to keep up with other women a lot of times. And I would
yeah,
be interested to hear your opinion on this because mine is like, I prefer no makeup. And like, I don't like, I think most men, maybe I'm wrong here. Maybe this is where I'm being ignorant, but I feel like most men, they're not interested in all of the like skincare. And I'm interested from your perspective. Like, I feel like most of it is done for other women and like for yourself. But like, then are you, sorry, I'm asking like a bunch of things, but then with, I'm like thinking right now through this. And then at the same time, if you're trying to pass that down to your child, is it getting them to kind of buy into that unrealistic beauty standards and kind of perpetuating stuff that we're trying to work against. But I'm just an ignorant male, so I wanted to hear your thoughts on this. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, so let me answer your million
18 questions. Yeah.
So I mean, kind of starting with like skincare as a whole, because there, yes, the 10-step, 12-step routine, like that's fairly, I would say, I'm not a dermatologist or a historian, but I would say that's a new phenomenon in history, in human history, to have a 10, I mean, like I know that the cave women were not doing 10-step Korean skincare
You never
classes
know.
and
Do you have the
routines.
research? You don't know.
I don't. So someone fact check me, but this is my theory.
Okay.
And I also really, so there's that, which is that to your point, women have been made to feel as if they need to do more to maintain youth forever.
And I also I should have said this earlier. I also understand that a lot of the beauty standards are set by men because men are the ones like who own a lot of the media, who do a lot of the hiring, but like outside of those creepy men, like who make that standard, I feel like most average men don't like, I don't know. Sorry,
Well,
I do.
No, I agree with you were mentioning like women kind of egg other women on, or like women are competing with women. And I think that's absolutely because what guy knows if you're doing a 10-step skincare routine? But you post that on Insta and like all the girls know, and they know what product you're using and how much it is and whether it's good and whether it's bad, and they'll post their opinions and like they'll tell you what you're doing wrong with your skincare. But ultimately, the goal of skincare is to have healthy skin that makes you look youthful. Some people might disagree with me, but I think that is where the industry has moved as a whole, is like your skin should look like a baby's bottom. And if you're not looking like that, you need to use this, or you need to use that, or you need to use this.
Right. It's this like it's everyone trying to fit. Me and my wife watched a movie. Yes, I highly recommend it. It's called The Substance. I don't know if you've heard of it, but it's basically so it's a horror movie, but it's really at its core, it's its take on beauty, because Demi Moore is the main character in it. I think Demi Moore is literally like 60 years old, but looks incredible for her age. But like in the movie, she's like she was basically like a celebrity who's now 50. She looks ridiculously good, but it's like she's getting pushed to the side and she wants to feel young again. So she takes this substance to create like a younger version of herself, basically. And it's like, but the movie was so good. It's got like really great ratings because you have this objective Demi Moore who is beautiful, who is really unhappy with her self, and she even wants to like take this drug to look better or like make the best version of herself. So my biggest fear with this is like I just don't want young, and I think a lot of it has to do with the conversation between the parent and the kid if they use the product. I don't want young people thinking their skin isn't okay and that they need to do other things. Sorry, go ahead.
Yes. No, you're absolutely right. I think the real issue to me with this product is that it's being framed as your child should act like you, and also this is a way to introduce them to self-care, to things that make them feel good, to things that make them look good. They're not going to say it makes them look good, but this is this self-care conversation that I think actually moves away from self-care entirely.
So insane because self-care looks different for different ages. So like me and my wife would go and do a couples massage. I am not going to take my 3-year-old to go get take his clothes off and go get him self-care looks different for different ages. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, like and our toddlers' brains developed enough to understand the concept of self-care. Like I don't know that I don't know that this is the best thing to be doing, to say like this is self-care to your toddler, but I do know that there are better things you can do to enrich their lives.
Right.
then
Right.
giving them a panda sheet mask, which, by the way, you're going to throw away and create waste. Sustainability?
It's also like,
Anyone?
Audrey, at
Like,
the end of at the core of this, what I see from this person like going through the Instagram is it's a cash grab. It's a way to
yeah,
phrase something. This
it
person has
consumerist.
35 million followers. Okay. So there is going to be a segment of the population who is going to buy whatever she puts out because she's that popular.
Yeah.
So it's a cash grab phrased around like a nice packaging that she's trying to do. But I think a lot of people like I think too, it re-emphasizes the unrealistic beauty standards we have for women.
Yes.
And I
Yeah.
just don't want that to be like, I do think there is a right way to do it. My concern is I don't know how often it will be interpreted by the kid as, you know, the correct way. And then also like demonstrated in it's just really, really sticky area. But
Yeah.
I was smart enough with the parent community to say, look, you're the parent, you make your decision, right?
Thank you.
I'm going to caveat that. Like, I'm not going to tell you how to run your life, spend your money how you want. But for me, yeah, there's a lot of stickiness with this that I would probably just avoid entirely.
Yeah. It kind of reminds me of, I mean, the idea that like, oh, your kid wants to mimic you and, you know, that's how they learn. But like, you don't give your kid a little child-sized wine glass and put Capri Sun in it and say like, look, you get wine just like mommy does. You know, like there are some things that you choose to do as an adult because you have enough knowledge or, you know, like you have control over yourself, your own autonomy. And children, I mean, you can get them young and bring them into the capitalist consumerist culture where they're constantly doubting themselves and their beauty going forward for the rest of their lives, or you can find other ways to enrich their lives. If I had kids, I don't have kids, don't come at me, parents.
And I did my caveat, so I'm good. Once again, do whatever you want. Yeah, do whatever you want. Yeah, you're not breaking any laws. No one's gonna come get you. Do what you want. That's just our two random people on the internet's take on it. But Audrey, thank you for bringing that story. I think kind of fun conversations like that are just good to have, and I don't know, they're important. So we are gonna finish. I did not prep you with this, so be ready to go with our vibes of the week. So you got to think of a song that you are listening to that's kind of, I don't know, you're throwing on Spotify pretty consistent. I will go first while the panic sets in your eyes. So today, my song is going to be by Fleetwood Mac. Listen to it on the way home from our hike today, and it's Gypsy. So that is my song. Okay. What is your vibe for the day? It can be any song, but just know everyone's going to judge you for the song you pick.
Yeah, you know, this is really hard because I don't really listen to music that much because I listen to podcasts so much, Tim. But it is actually, I'm not a huge believer in like the Christmas music before Thanksgiving thing, but that is the most recent music I have listened to. And I think I don't think anyone can say anything bad about Mariah Carey. So all I want for Christmas is you.
Thank you for watching and being part of a growing progressive community. Please make sure to like, share, and subscribe. And if you have the time, check out some of my other episodes you can see around me. Thank you.